down our breakfast food chart and take a look at our first breakfast. Now the first breakfast is made up of plain oatmeal, natural peanut butter, skim milk, and a sliced banana. Let's take a look.
Let's start with breakfast number 1. Are the grains included in this breakfast whole grains? Yes, oatmeal is a whole grain, so we can check that box off. Who remembers what a whole grain is from the My Plate lesson? Well, a whole grain, they are products that include all 3 parts of the kernel and have more nutrients and fiber than refined grains, which only contain some part of the grain. Fiber is a type of carbohydrate that is only found in plant foods. It keeps you feeling full and helps with digestion. Foods high in fiber include fruit, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and beans. Is there a source of protein in this breakfast? Yes, the peanut butter is a great source of protein, as well as the skim milk. Skim milk contains calcium, which is another one of our vocab words. Calcium is a mineral that provides structure for your bones and teeth, and vitamin D helps the body absorb calcium needed for normal growth of your teeth and bones. Is there a serving of fruit or vegetables? Yes, once again, we have a banana in this breakfast, so we can check off that box. Is there added sugar or added fat in the breakfast? Where do we find it? No, there isn't, so all 4 boxes can be checked off. So is this a healthy breakfast? Absolutely.
Now let's take a look at breakfast number 2. What's in breakfast number 2? We have Bisquick pancakes with butter and syrup, hash browns, bacon, and sausage. Let's take a look and analyze this breakfast.
So let's look at American breakfast number 2. Are the grains included in this breakfast whole grains? No, Bisquick pancakes contain refined grains, so we cannot check this box off. Is there a source of protein? Yes, the bacon and sausage are considered a source of protein. However, remember that most breakfast meats are not healthy options, and it is important to choose leaner breakfast options such as turkey, Canadian bacon, lean ham, or turkey sausage. Is there a serving of fruit or vegetable? Yes, hash browns. The potatoes that make hash browns are considered a serving of vegetables. However, there are better vegetable choices that provide more nutrients. Is there added sugar or added fat in the breakfast? Where do we find it? Yes, it's found in the butter and the syrup, so we will not put an X in this box either. So we only have 2 out of our 4. So is this a healthy breakfast? The answer is no.
Now let's take a look at a Japanese breakfast. Now this is going to be a lot different than some of the traditional foods that we eat in America. So it's pretty interesting. The Japanese breakfast is made up of white rice, broth, soup, seaweed, fish, pickles, vegetables, tofu, and egg omelet roll. So let's analyze this Japanese breakfast now.
So let's take a look at the Japanese breakfast. Are the grains included in this breakfast whole grains? No, white rice is not considered a whole grain, so we can't count that one. Is there a source of protein? Yes, the tofu, fish, and the egg are all sources of protein, so we can definitely check off that box. Is there a serving of fruit or vegetables? Yes, seaweed and vegetables. Is there added sugar or added fat in the breakfast? And if so, where do we find it? No, there is no added sugar or added fat in this breakfast. So we have 3 of our 4 marked off. So we can call this a healthy breakfast.
So just like breakfasts can be very different around the world, they can be very different even in your classroom. Different people have different preferences and different families have different traditions or foods that they like. So now it's your turn to come up with your favorite breakfast. If you can't think of a favorite breakfast, maybe just think about the last breakfast you ate and write that down in your chart. So in the first part of the chart, write down all of the things. Don't forget the things that you drank. Don't forget the things that you added to your breakfast. So go ahead and pause the video and write out the breakfast on your chart. Welcome back. Hopefully you have your breakfast written down. Now let's go ahead and analyze it based on the criteria that we talked about earlier. Remember, we need to get 3 out of these 4. So First of all, take a look at your breakfast. Does it contain whole grain? Now, if your breakfast contains some sort of cereal, is it made out of whole grain? If the breakfast contains some kind of a bread, is it white bread or is it a whole grain bread? If you have a whole grain in there, go ahead and check that box off. All right, does your breakfast contain any dairy or protein? So it could be milk or a milk-based product, or it could be some sort of a meat or some sort of a nut or something that contains a little bit of protein. Does your breakfast have protein or dairy? If it does, go ahead and mark that box. What about a fruit or veggie? You know, orange juice would count. If you had 100% orange juice, that would count as a fruit. If you like to eat a piece like an apple or something for breakfast, or sometimes you can add veggies to your breakfast. So if it contains a fruit or a vegetable, go ahead and mark that box off. And then last but not least, does it have added sugar? You know, a lot of cereals, as we talked about in our sugar lessons, have a lot of added sugar. So if it's cereal, make sure it doesn't have a lot of added sugar. You know, if we add a lot of syrup to our pancakes, that's sugar. So really keep an eye on that. You know, and we also want to keep an eye on added fat. All right, so if it doesn't contain that, you can mark that box off. And now remember, all you need is 3 out of 4. So go ahead and take a look at your breakfast. Was it healthy?